Hello and welcome to the Satellite TV podcast. The war to establish Khalistan against the onslaught of an Indian regime intent on ignoring democratic norms has known many battlefields over the last 77 years. Some literal, including Punjab, where the blood of hundreds of thousands of Sikhs has been spilled against an oppressive Indian government even since 1947. And some battlefields metaphorical, like the enormous propaganda war still being waged by the RSS and its Hindutva forces. Well, my guest today has been fighting for many years in the vanguard of that propaganda battle and has become a regular target of India for his continuous and successful efforts, highlighting the infiltration of the Brahmanical rulers of India through the RSS across Western society, determined to destroy the positive message of Khalistan. Bhajan Singh Bhinder, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Scott. Hello to the big Satluj family, Guru Fateh to everybody.
Indeed. Now, Bhajan, we've talked a lot in past discussions about how the RSS has infiltrated academia, particularly in the US, and an increasing number of people are fortunately waking up to the fact of this existence of this infiltration. Now, the recent Sacramento Bee article lifted the lid on several aspects of how the RSS are doing this, including a deliberate campaign to influence, for example, local law enforcement against Khalistanis. So, Bhajan, if we use this as a starting point, can you give us a quick summary of the RSS and the vehicles it's been using in recent years to spread this anti-Khalistan message?
Well, Scott, as the reality of Khalistan sinks in, and these global nations are getting involved. So it's important that we too seize the opportunity and really make this movement a success because our enemies are working overtime to defeat our movement. Hence, we must realize and work on the tactics that they are using. So if you're going by the Sacramento Bee article and the Hindu American Foundation, you need to understand that the Hindu American Foundation was founded by Mr. Meher Magani. He's a veteran of the Hindu Swayam Sevak Sangh, Vishwa Hindu Prasad, RSS, and he's a very successful businessman, but his ideology is deep-rooted with the RSS. So he laid the foundational doctrines, how to use the American culture, how to use the American political setup to infiltrate on behalf of Hindutva. And the method they are using is an age-old Brahminical miracle wonder, where in the absence of actual power, you go and do Kanafusi. Kanafusi is a whispering campaign against the enemy, and it's been going on for centuries. In the absence of power, you go to those in power and you whisper bad things about the most powerful adversary you have. So in this case, the Hindu American Foundation has gone and do the Kanafusi whispering campaign, where they have reached out to law enforcement, they have reached out to the academia, they have basically done a whispering campaign to label every Sikh a Khalistani, every Sikh a terrorist, and every Gurdwara must be monitored. So this tactic was first developed by Mahesh Das, the Brahmin who served under the Mughal emperor of Akbar. And he was very upset with the idea of Guru Granth Sahib nourishing freedom for the most disadvantaged of the society. Hence, he was a natural adversary of the ideas of Sikhi versus the ideas of Brahmanism, which was to suppress the human sovereignty. So at that time too, Kanafusi was done with the sitting power in Delhi, the Mughals, against the Gurus. The same way here, today, Hindu American Foundation is doing a whispering campaign, bringing literature, because they are not in power in the White House, fortunately, yet. So in the absence of power, the next best thing is use those in power to attack the enemies, to weaken them and destroy their movements. So that's what is happening in America. It's all age-old Brahminical RSS ideology that we are seeing firsthand being played out in America and also in Canada.
And I notice, of course, politicians, when they formulate their policies to govern any nation, they do tend to listen quite often to think tanks, these unelected organisations that research and come up with papers, I suppose they call them academic papers that they claim is fact. Of course, I guess then the RSS has been using think tanks as part of its overall propaganda agenda.
Yes, actually, they have started this campaign earlier in Canada to really attack the Sikhs in Canada. So the fact that this is a Kanafusi whispering campaign has been perfected in Canada for the past 40 years or more. So in Canada, for example, they have used the Macdonald-Laurier Institute to attack the ideas of Khalistan. So what is interesting is the fact that such high-level think tanks are being used. It tells you that the legitimacy of Khalistan is real, and our enemies are concerned that Sikhs are inching towards Khalistan, and it will become reality one day, and they have to bring out think tanks, whispering campaigns to thwart the progress of Khalistan. So when you look at the think tanks, let's look at this think tank. The author of this project is Terry Milwaukee, who has traveled to India in 1967 to interview Indira Gandhi. He is a known soft spot for the Indian states, overlooking their atrocities for decades. Interestingly, when you look at the Hindu American Foundation's statements that are in the Sacramento Bee, that they are saying all Khalistanis are terrorists, they're involved in attacking the Hindu mandirs, all made up stories, whispering campaigns. And for example, they don't have a real Air India kind of a flagged incidents to portray in America. So they're using this flimsy, or they're spraying the mandirs, they're setting up false fires in the embassy, totally made up, not as made up stories, very typical of the Indian intelligence and the Hindutva method of operation. But if you look at this project, Khalistan, the project of Pakistan, how the think tank is coming in Canada, the reason why they took out this report, because Sikhs, the Khalistanis in Canada in 2018, they have successfully lobbied the Canadian government to remove the word extremist and that Khalistan is an extremist ideology. So they have removed some very critical words that were used against to describe a Khalistani. So that was happening in 2018. So the federal government took steps on amending the national security statement where they are not blaming Khalistani to be an extremist. In fact, Khalistani is a right to engage in a freedom movement in Canada, and that's what's not appetizing to these think tanks and the Hindutva movement. So in order to counter this big achievement, they came out in 2020 with this Khalistan project of Pakistan. So you can see how these whisperers, the whisperers of the Birbal of today, how they're engaging with think tanks and how they are trying to misdirect, mislabel. In fact, they are losing this game, as we have seen today. It's really falling flat on their face. So in our effort to continue to make progress on Khalistan, we must take these think tanks very seriously because there are a lot of board members, former ambassadors, very powerful figures that are in the MacDonald Laurier Institute, and they want to drive the national conversation. They are the most cited think tank in Canada's parliament, and they want to make Canada. They, both they want to attack the Kremlin, they want to attack Beijing. I think our Khalistan movement should realize what MLI is about. Either we engage other think tanks to have a long-term strategy to stake our claims of Khalistan in Canada, but also as Canadians, we want to contribute to a Canada that is just, prosperous, and a power that is seen as an equal opportunity humanitarian nation. So a lot of opportunity here to do the work of Khalistan along with the ideals of Sikhi. So I want to take you to another a book that is done by Terry. So he is very desperate. When he wrote another book, Blood for Blood, 50 Years of Global Khalistan Project, it's such a sad state of affairs that this man wants to be a voice of reason in Canada while basically being a puppet of demonizing, a puppet of the powerful, playing a whispering campaign just like the Brahmins did centuries. For example, he's saying that he wrote this book. I wrote the book largely out of sense of failure, a reality of sense of failure as a Canadian, as a journalist, most obviously in Canada, where the Khalistan saga was focused very much on the Kaniksha bombing of 1985. Although he's trying to blame the Sikhs, but look at the irony of his statement. That's exactly what Sikhs are telling you. This is what Khalistanis are saying ever since 1985 when the Kaniksha bombing happened, that there is a sense of failure. So instead of getting to the Sikhs, instead of doing a proper investigation, Terry should hang his head in shame because he has failed Canada, he has failed Sikhs, he has failed humanity, and he continues to serve as a puppet. And one of the reasons he gave in the Blood for Blood in one of his interviews in 2018, Prime Minister Trudeau visited India, and there's a guy by the name of Jaspal Atwal who accompanied him. Jaspal was involved in a murder of way back in 1985 and has been blacklisted. So Terry does not investigate how does the Indian government allows a convicted murderer who was on their blacklist, how the blacklist was lifted conveniently, how a visa was given to him to be able to come to India and be planted in Prime Minister Trudeau's social visits. So this tells you the Indian government is playing so many dirty games. They are involved in, that's why the Canadian people are waking up. And the people who wrote the foreword to this book, Ujjal Dosanjh is one of them. And he's telling Trudeau, oh, do you not have any shame that you invited Jaspal Atwal? But Ujjal is silent, Terry is silent. When the Indian state invites Rapudaman Malak, one of the key figure involved in the Kaniksha bombing, not only they lifted his blacklist, not only they gave him a visa, the Indian state, which has been saying that Rapudaman Malak is a key terrorist, a financier of Khalistan, and involved in the Kaniksha bombing, sadly, the Indian government not only invited him to India, but entertained him at the highest level in the South Bloc, and also he met with the raw agency's head, and Lord knows what they discussed. And sadly, when he came back,
he was murdered, and his murderers are on trial, and we might learn a lot more about the Kaniksha bombing soon. But the fact is that look at these think tanks and these so-called professionals that are so one-sided, that are so blinded, and that makes it very important that the Khalistan movement, it sharpens its pens and it tackles these people at every level so that our freedom can come sooner than later, and Canada can be strong to help and protect not only the Sikhs, but other marginalized groups seeking freedom anywhere in the world.
So one thing I noticed, Bhajan, is one of the common themes, the common accusations that certainly comes from the right wing in Hindutva about the whole Khalistan concept is they are claiming, certainly in all their propaganda that they are putting into this whispering campaign, they always claim that the Khalistan movement, the concept of Khalistan, is a construction of Pakistani intelligence, the ISI, and indeed supported by the CIA. And this, of course, goes back a long way. It goes even back to 1984 and even earlier than that. Could you elaborate more about this whole concept that it basically was a creation of ISI?
Yes. Actually, this is again a very complex way of the Indian state to dilute and make the issue, which is very clear, very cloudy, to create confusion, very much like the Brahminical method of fighting the enemies. So Guru Gobind Singh has clearly said, "Koi kisi ko raj na de hain, jo le hain nij bal se le hain." If Sikhs want to get the Raj, nobody is going to give them on a platter. They have to fight for it on their own. And in the same way, in the 1930s and 40s, even up to 45, there were booklets and demand for Khalistan very early on. So Khalistan is not a post-1984 concept. It has been there in the very blood of the Sikhs as ordained by the gurus to make sure that you control your own destiny to serve the bigger global community. So the Indian state recognizes the Brahminical institutions that have been whispering when they were not in power, and now they are actively pursuing while in power to make sure that this reality of Khalistan doesn't happen. So very early on, the Indian state, during the height of the Cold War, when India was clearly aligned and calling itself the non-aligned nation, it has a bunch of countries, Cuba and many other nations in African continent with it. So they were using this whole platforms, and they even had the help of the KGB in 1980 when they, just leading up to the attack on Amritsar, which they called Operation Blue Star. The KGB organized a secret operation called Contact, Kontact, the details of which are right here in this book called The World Was Going Our Way, which has all the archives of the KGB global activities in this book. And they have talked about the issue of Khalistan, how the KGB was putting out false narratives on Khalistan, very much like what the Terry Milwaukee is doing right now, and getting Pakistan involved. Is an old wine in a new bottle. No think tank business about it. They didn't even think about it. This is the same thing the KGB did, and that's what the Indian state wanted the KGB to do, so they can manufacture this Khalistan narrative. They can control the narrative. They even wanted to control the movement because they were legitimately very fearful of the movement. It's a reality. And in fact, the KGB wanted to help the Indian government to thwart the Khalistan movement. Itself indicates that the reality of Khalistan is real. It's been there since the times of the gurus and since India's independence and pre-partition. So you can see how this narrative is continuously being built, and Pakistan is dragged into it. And then, on one hand, the Indian state they use the KGB to build a false narrative that Pakistan is helping to create Khalistan, which is completely a bogus operation, as this book has pointed out now. And India, Indira Gandhi herself was involved in this propaganda war, and she wished to control the Khalistan movement. They didn't want the Western countries to help the Sikhs during the Cold War, and they started manufacturing this false operations through the KGB. What is interesting, on one, look at the Brahmin mind, how they work. On one hand, they started this KGB operations to claim that CIA and Pakistan were behind the movement, and later a cow, one of the head of the KAO, his name is Cow, and he's the head of the Raw Agency. He had the nerve to write in his memoirs that he has managed to tell the senior Bush, George H.W. Bush, the director of CIA, that, hey, please stop funding the Khalistani movement. So they created their own flag incidents. No doubt, the Sikhs had their Khalistan movement going, whether it was through the Jagjit Singh Chauhan, whether it was through the Dal Khalsa and many other vested interests who always wanted Khalistan. But they used these very conniving methods to create an issue, then say, hey, look, the KGB is saying that you guys are helping finance Khalistan. Can you stop it? And I don't know whether the conversation ever happened, but they use this kind of propaganda to their advantage. And this tells us that the Khalistan issue is a real headache for India, and they had to use so many active measures internationally. In Canada, now they're using the same measures in America through the Hindu American Foundation. So it's a continuous battle of wits and strategies. And the only thing that's happening, the claim for legitimacy of Khalistan is getting even more international recognition. It's getting more bolder. It's getting more strategic, and looks like we are inching towards victory. So that is the use of the international connections for the Khalistan issue. Domestically, to contain the international community, they use Canada, KGB, and all that. But to create domestically, look at what they are doing. Domestically, what they did is they planted the cow heads on the Hindu Mandir in April 26, 1982. Bhindranwale was not in the Golden Temple, Harmandir Sahib at that time. He came there in the Darbar Sahib. He came there in April 1982. So they put cow heads, and on that they wrote in Gurmukhi that we want more rights for the states, we want Khalistan. And so they put all these words, just like they're doing at the Hindu Mandirs now. They're writing Khalistan on the Hindu Mandir walls. They are cursing the Hindu religion, which the Sikhs never do, and no one endorse such thing. Our enemies is not the Hindus, but those who want to suppress the freedom of the Sikhs. Those are our real enemies. So domestically, in order to scare the rest of India and present Khalistan as a country that will be totally totalitarian, they have no mercy. They would even go to the extent of cutting the cow heads, and all this was done by the Indian intelligence itself. If you compare the policies going on in Canada, using extortions, using murders, and using the cow, the sacred animal that the Hindus considered very holy to them. Every Hindu should be questioning, how dare you bring the one of the most religious entity, religious symbol of Hindu worship. How dare you bring this thing into the Khalistan movement to just so you could discredit the Sikhs, the Hindus should wake up that the Hindutva group is not a group to serve the Hindu interests, as you can see internationally and domestically. They have created a mess for the whole of India and particularly for Hindus. And I think this is one concern that should unite uniformly all people who want to live in peace and harmony with each other.
Now, one thing that is always very evident in the methodology of the RSS and Hindutva is this desire to divide. And it happens every day now. We see it and we report on it regularly. They are sowing division as much as they can globally between all the various communities, particularly between the Hindus and the Sikhs and the Muslims. I want to go back in time now, if I could, Bhajan, because this has been going on for a long time. And I believe in Canada, really at the turn of the last century, there was even an occasion when I think the Canadian authorities, I guess in conjunction with the British Raj, the British establishment, they were looking to drive out the Sikhs from Canada, I think in the early 1900s, I believe.
Sometime, Scott, you will see that when you look back in history and you compare the current situation of Sikhs in Canada and now the spillage of that war of words and flag incidents spillage into America, we go back and look at a very significant history in the times of the Sikhs in Canada. In 1908, there was a Canadian government developed a scheme to mass deport all Sikhs, to fraud them, to cheat them, to leave Canada. And what they told the Sikhs were that in Canada at that time, that there's a lot of Sikh unemployment here. The winters are very harsh. Sikhs might face starvation. They're hopeless. They're helpless. They're inferior. So they said that we have sent a delegation of Sikhs to Honduras to study a very Punjab-like Eden for the Sikhs, where they can thrive and they are more they're more suitable for the climate. So this is a trick, and many Sikhs and a few of not many Sikhs, a few traitors try to sell this idea to the Sikhs. And the Sikhs, of course, were very, very upset, and they were accused of
get us out of Canada is not because of the harsh winters, because of our hard work, because we live a clean life, and they're saying we don't take a bath. We take a bath every day, and say compared to many of the other mostly white population, they say they don't even bath for 7 days in a row. So they're saying that we have these issues of jealousy, and they want to get rid of us because we're having a good living here. We are being productive citizens of Canada, and they countered the Canadian narrative with that kind of rebuttals.
So Bhajan, I understand a very significant figure around this time who had a huge impact, particularly on this Honduras incident, was a gentleman called Bhajan Singh. Could you talk about him? Could you give us an insight into this gentleman?
Yeah, Bhajan Singh came to United States to study, to teach in Columbia and study in Columbia. Then he went to Harvard. As one of the most intriguing figure, one of the most visionary and powerful Sikhs who set foot in the North America. He was also the first president of the Stockton Sikh Gurdwara. Bhajan Singh immediately came to the rescue of the beleaguered Sikhs in Canada, and he immediately did a survey and realized that a lot of this misunderstanding was all due to propaganda and lack of understanding of the Sikh way of life. So he immediately set into action and he requested 90 days from the Canadian government to fix the situation. In those 90 days, he went on a lengthy lecture about Sikhi. And the Vancouver Daily had headlines December 12, 1908, the mystery and power of Teja Singh, regarded by the Sikhs as a demigod. And Teja Singh told the Canadians that who the Sikhs are, what their belief system is. One of the key things he said was Sikhs do not believe profiteering from the misery of fellow human beings. And that's what the whole world is, the defense industry. They want to profit from the misery of human beings. And Teja Singh opposed very sharp ideas and talked about the oneness. And he also told the Canadians that do not believe in these swamis and yogis and the occult. He said that the true liberation lies in your connection to oneness and the one creator. So he quickly set about to do the work. And what he did was he got the Sikhs, and they bought 250 acres of land in Eagle Harbor, which is on the south side of Vancouver, one of the most pristine, most expensive land today. Look at the vision of Teja Singh. In Jacksonville, California, Teja Singh got 1/3 share in a mining company. And this is you're talking about 1849, the gold rush that made California what it is today, really made America what it is today. Look at the vision of this man. He further went and did a survey, and he did a lot of research, and he said 70% of the Sikhs, they are not unemployed, they are employed. And 30% who are unemployed, they are being maintained by their fellow Sikhs. Not a single Sikh is being using the dole or being a burden to the state. So he went about quickly to fix the image of the Sikhs and quickly told them, look, we have invested in land, we have invested in lumber mills. So a very intriguing person. And what the lessons that Sikhs need to learn from Teja Singh today, we need to apply the same principles. We need to take head on this propagandist. This is all a fog. I mean, we just need to clear the fog with the truth. That's all we are lacking. If today's Sikhs are being defeated, it's not because there's not enough Sikhs who want to sacrifice their lives. It's not because we don't have enough horses. It's not because we don't have enough money. We do not invest in ink. We do not invest in the pen. We do not invest in our most intellectual mites. And the Terry Milwaukes are giving us a hard time because our own lack of foresight, the way Teja Singh saw the community. And we need to reach out with Sikhi, and our Gurdwaras, and everybody need to come on board for that. So I believe that history has taught valuable lessons. Sikhs has faced these challenges many times, whether it is the false propaganda of these so-called think tanks that want to make money out of the misery of human beings, or the Hindu American Foundation with their desperate whispering campaigns, painting Sikhs as terrorists, as less than human, demonizing them in America. We've been there before, and the leadership of Teja Singh tells us that we need Teja Singh today. If the Sikhs ever need a Teja Singh, it is now. And that's what we must try to work hard on getting our leadership. And look at nothing has changed, in fact. If you look at the times of Teja Singh, how quickly the Canadian public turned around to accept the ideas of Sikhi, and then the Honduras plan was all squashed because of so much awareness was created in the public. And today we need to create awareness. And this is one of the highest respects ever paid to the Guru Granth Sahib in the history of America, I think, if not the entire North America, if not the entire world. Tom McClintock is a conservative member of the United States Congress, and he's a very dear friend of mine. And we got to know each other in 2008 when I fought very hard because I believe in his integrity. I don't agree with all his policies all the time, but I think he's a person you cannot buy with campaign money. And I bet my 2 cents on him, and I helped him secure victory in a very crucial election the first time he got elected. And we started talking about, he asking me, why are you helping me? And I sat down with him over tea and I at length told him who I was, what I believe in, who's our gurus are, what's our history in America, how we came here, why we came here. And after listening and studying to the Sikhs, he had an opportunity to pay gratitude to the Sikhs, to appreciate the sacrifices of the Guru. And he said in the 100th year celebration of the Sikhs in America, the century, he said, there is no religion more attuned to the principles of the American Declaration of Independence than the Sikh religion. I mean, this is a lot of weight on our soldiers, on our shoulders. When we go and protest for Khalistan, we don't want to walk in front of the mandirs. That's not going to earn us high marks like that. We need to be on our best behavior. The world wants to support us. This is how the world is looking at us. They are looking at us as the religion and the belief system, just like Teja Singh convinced the Canadians. The Teja Singhs convinced the Canadians then. The McClintocks of today that represent the true spirit of America, they think Sikhs are unique and they will support our freedom. But we need to be mindful that with this high marks and high praise, there comes a lot of responsibility. We need to live up to the standards of the gurus, and that's what will get us freedom and will get more support in the world. And especially now in this day, why this is so important, why the Honduras thing is being revived again. That's a record of 130 plus Indian Americans at key position in the Biden administration. These are all the whisperers. These are all the people of the Birbals of today. They are continuously feeding and whispering bad things about Sikhs and the Dalits and all the oppressed communities and Muslims, whoever they perceive. Almost the whole world is their enemy. They want to destroy churches in India. And these are the people who have the seeds, and it's very important to recognize them, especially in our upcoming elections. We should be mindful. No Sikh should support any of these candidates, whether it be federal, local, city. And this is where we need to get behind the doctrines of Teja Singh. We need to get behind the doctrines of the McClintocks today. There are many people who want to embrace you with open arms. And I want to share some good news. We have Jasmeet Bains. She put up the transnational repression bill. She's the first assemblywoman to become a Sikh woman to become assembly member. We should work very hard. Make sure that those 130 people sitting in the White House, we need to help many Jasmeet Bains to win elections. We need to help them earlier on when they are running for city officers, planning commissions. So the community need to, each Sikh need to be a saint and a soldier together. He need to be aware. He should not be misled by propaganda, internal, external. He should be mindful of his duties. He should put the picture of Teja Singh right in front. Look what the founders of the Sikh nation in America did for the Sikhs. That's why we are here. That's why we are able to do kabaddis today. That's why we're having farms. Never forget the hard work of those who made it for you. During times of peace, we must prepare for war. So on the left side, you will see that the American factor is coming. You see glimpses of Teja Singh here. For example, there are some groups here, most of the elected city and state officials, mayors, they have signed off on a letter that in order to get Sikh support, if you want to speak in Sikh Gurdwaras, make sure you follow these four things. Make sure you are committed to this. You want to support federal persecution of transnational repression. You want to support all legislative resolutions on the 1984 genocide of the Sikhs. We want to take it to the federal level. Support the lawsuit where Sikhs are being discriminated. Condemn the Hindu American Foundation statements defaming Gurdwaras as a hub of terrorists and all these false propagandas, and condemn the whispering campaign of the Hindu American Foundation that the American government should do surveillance on the Sikhs. That's what they have been doing. In Canada earlier, that's what was being asked for. Deportation, surveillance, and we need to be the Teja Singhs of today to make sure that Sikhs' interest is well served.
It's becoming apparent, certainly in the last week or so, that India is, I believe, losing this propaganda war, this propaganda battle. It's coming to light of what India have been up to, the government have been up to, and in turn, in contrast to that, the Khalistan movement has been very high profile. It has always been peaceful. It has been very friendly. It is out in the streets. How confident are you, Bhajan, that the Khalistan movement are going to win this war?
Well, I'm fully confident. I've been so confident. I'm so excited about these new opportunities. This is insane to be in the middle of global geopolitics. This is exciting. Every Sikh should be excited at this opportunity. The sufferings will happen, the pain will come, the gains will come. But what is going to make the real impact? When the Second World War was going on, the big question in America was what in the end will settle this war? This was the U.S. Recruiting Committee. What will settle this war? So we have the same question facing the Sikhs today. What in the end will settle this age-old, centuries war, which is basically waged against the Guru Granth's teachings, whether it's Kabirji, whether it's Ravidasji, whether it's Nanak, whether it's all the great gurus, the Bhagats, we bow to the Guru Granth Sahib, which is the fountain of freedom, which does not believe in making money from the misery of human beings. So with these values, what will settle this war is trained men and women and children. And it's the duty of every Sikh to become a trained person who is mindful of every moment in this history. Nandalal Goyal, a very famous poet during the times of Guru Gobind Singh, said, "Times are such that every moment demands attention." And I applaud all the efforts that the media, people like you, are coming in and talking about this issue. For example, the Harper magazine put out a very interesting dialogue for America. It is the oldest institution in America. They talk about the rise of Hindutva and how the Hindutva, the Hindu American Foundation and other organizations, how they have come up and use their money and their whispering campaign to suppress the caste bill. When I sent the Harper magazine article to my friends in Dalits in India, they were shocked. Immediately meetings were arranged. Everything that happened here impacts the vast population of India, majority of whom refuse to call themselves Hindus. So the powers of corridor that are being used or misused or not used by the Indians in America, including Sikhs who want Khalistan, the Muslims, the Dalits, the Ambedkarites, we need to come together to fill this space, and we need to send the Harper magazine article to every Indian to let them know what Hindu American Foundation is doing in America against the interests of every human being seeking freedom in India. That itself would give you a big wave, uplift the struggle of the Khalistan. And in the same way, there's another report that came recently. It was done by a bunch of minority organizations of India, shared with you. It says that Hindu American Foundation to Supremacy. Very detailed report. Every person should have that in his hand. They should read it. It should be discussed at all our camps, the youth camps. It should be a mandatory reading for all our Punjabi schools. It should be discussed by the Gurdwara committees. What it means, how it impact us. Because the Hindu American Foundation, as the HAF to Supremacy report, which includes the Ambedkar King Study Circle, Indian American Muslim Council, the Equality Lab. A lot of people have came through to put this report. And we in the report, they are saying the Hindu American Foundation is aligning itself in the global far right movement. And the global far right movement could create a situation where Europe is becoming very far right. It will create a situation for the Sikhs, like a Honduras kind of situation. And we need to be very mindful of that. We need to immediately invest in our children's freedom. We are not welcome in India, in Punjab. We need to change that. We need to get our freedom. And they could make things harder for us. Look at this whispering campaign has led them to the White House with so much power. And we need to change that. Teja Singh has shown us the way. Guru Gobind Singh, Banda Singh Bahadur, Kabir Ji, Ravdas Ji Maharaj, everyone has shown us the way how to win this war. The question is, what will settle the war is trained men, women, and children. And it's our duty to become one. Are we trained? And are our institutions having the proper training grounds to train us?
Indeed, as we often say, Bhajan, the truth will prevail and Khalistan will therefore naturally follow. Bhajan, unfortunately there we must leave it, but we will be talking with Bhajan Singh Bhinder again soon to continue these interesting discussions. Bhajan, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Scott. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Indeed. And thank you for watching the Satellite TV podcast. We will see you next time.